Hey everybody, it's Melissa from Geeky Witch here. Nice to see you again. I'm so sorry for the delay. It's been a couple of months since I've recorded. It's just been crazy around here with the holidays, and I had some unexpected remote schooling for my son that was balanced with work, and I feel like I really haven't had a good chunk of time alone, both to think about what I wanted to present to you and also just, the time to record, because you really kind of need that quiet time away from everybody. But I finally have a chance, and I'm going to take it while I can. I hope that you are having a good 2021 so far. Isn't it awesome we made it after how crazy last year was? I know, we're not out of the woods yet with 2021, of course, but at least the new year gives us that kind of, okay, we can take a break. We can step away and start fresh. And I'm very happy that we got here. And it honestly has been a nice breath of fresh air where I just feel like I could pause and reground myself and kind of start a little bit anew, so to speak. So I hope that your family and friends had a very good holiday season, whichever ones you celebrated this past few weeks. We celebrate Yule and we celebrate Christmas in this house, which from our perspective kind of are two sides of the same coin. Yule is much more kind of a quiet personal thing, where Christmas is much more of the more boisterous family gathering. But, both are about just really being together and celebrating the things we have in life, celebrating each other. And I think this year was more important than ever. It was a nice, quiet holiday for us. It was just us. Our friend Matt, who is adopted family, he came down because otherwise he would have spent the holiday alone. But other than that, it was just us. And it was great. Nice, laid back, lazy, my kind of a holiday, especially after this past year. So, again, hope that you had a lovely time, and I'd love to hear about what you guys did. And I'll talk about that more on the blog, because obviously that's off topic to FlossTube. So, I wanted to talk about what I'm going to show tonight. I am not going to do my final two finishes for 2020 this time, only because I have a lot of other stuff I want to show you. And I'm going to do the finishes in my next video, which I am planning on filming tomorrow evening. So I will have that up tomorrow. Tonight, I'm going to do the first of my batches of projects. And to lead into that, I wanted to talk about how I have finally figured out how I am breaking them up into batches. And this idea came from my friend Amy, who you may know here on FlossTube as Gable Stitcher. She and I were talking about this several months ago, about dividing our projects that we have, because we both have a fair amount of WIPs and UFOs, of, where do you divide them so they don't feel like they're overwhelming? And she mentioned how she and her husband had been talking about how there kind of was a divide where she took a pause in stitching. And there's the pre-pause group and the post-pause group. And so she's putting them in the batches, and she's kind of bringing in like a couple of the time out of the older set to finish them, while being able to also enjoy newer stuff that's out there and not feel guilty about it. And I really liked that idea. And So, we were talking about it a little bit more, and she mentioned to me, she was like, hey, you really like your Wenslers that you've had for years, and they almost are kind of their own group. And I was like, yeah, you're right, they are. So I went through and I divided my UFOs, my unfinished objects, into 3 batches. And the batches that I came up with basically get divided as: one are all of my Teresa Wensler projects. Because I'm a fan of her work, I started a ton of them years ago because there used to be a thing called Guilt-Free January. And you threw caution to the wind and you'd have like 5, 6, 7, 8 Teresa Wensler projects going on at the same time. Yeah, that's great until you start to burn out because all you're doing is blended stitches day in, day out for years on end, right? Okay, so they're in one batch. Then I have all of the stitching that I started before I had my son Max. And Max is now going on 8 years old. So we're talking about, 2012-ish is about where that cutoff is. Then I've got everything that I started after I had Max. So again, there at this point, the stuff that's after Max has quite a few years on it. The stuff before Max has a lot of years on it. And the Wenslers are going back 15, 16, 17 years at this point. But to keep them in those batches makes it a little bit easier for me to divide out what I'm going to do. And the plan is I can work on anything I want this year. I am having a year where I'm making no goals for myself as far as how many finishes I get, how many projects I'm working on. No, I'm going to enjoy stitching because I don't know how COVID stuff is going to happen over the next few months. I don't know what my son's work schedule from home, for school is going to be, how long I'm going to be working from home, and when I have to start doing my long commute again, which will factor everything differently. No idea. So I am just going under the assumption that, it's going to be a weird year. Caution's going out to the wind. I'm just going to stitch, and I'm going to enjoy what I stitch, what I want, when I want. The little things that I've put on myself to make this less overwhelming is only one Wensler comes out of the pile at a time, and only a few of the pre-Max WIPs are going to come out at a time. So that it's not just a glut of old stitching that I still want to do, but I want to be able to enjoy new things too. And that leads me into the piles. I stumbled into WIP Go this year, like it seems everybody else did this year, and decided to make myself a board, which was a nice mix of a few new projects, brand new projects, a few of my projects that I've started in the last couple of years, a few that are just a little bit older than that, one Wensler, and a couple of things that are before Max. And I'm going to show you the WIP Go stuff this year in order as it comes on the board, with the exception of the things that are new starts that I have not started yet. I'll start showing those as I start them over the next few weeks to a couple of months, because some of them might not come up for a little bit. So without further ado, I will start the pile of WIPs. The first one on my board is And They Sinned, and I just worked on this a little bit yesterday. This was my New Year's start. I'm going to be looking at notes, so if I look down, that's why. This was my New Year's start in 2019, and I'm stitching this on 56 count. It is lovely to stitch on. It is not as hard as you think to stitch on, and the stitches wind up being the same size as 28/1. So while yes, it's small, it's not intolerable. It really isn't. The first couple of stitches are hard. And then once you get those first couple of stitches in, your eyes still lock on to that grid of dots like it does on any other even weaver linen. So yeah, I'm doing this with charted threads. and I am just beginning the big gray cloud of doom, which anyone who has stitched And They Sinned knows about because it's a huge block of stitching. But it'll go. And I work on this on Sundays. I picked it up yesterday with my friend Amy. We had a lovely morning of stitching together, and this is probably going to be my Sunday project going on until sinning on Sunday. It's a good way to start the week, don't you think? So that's And They Sinned. The next one I have is, and I showed this also a little while ago, but I haven't worked on it since I showed it. This is Witch's Wheel by Glendon Place. I started this the year it was charted, and that was back in 2011. It's on 32 count solar from Picture This Plus, which is the called for fabric. And the fabric is what drew me to the piece in the first place. I saw it up on the wall and went, oh my God, I need that. And then the shop owner said, oh, but wait, let me show you what goes on it. And I went, ooh, I need that too. So the entire thing is stitched in DMC. And then there are a crap load of beads that will be going on this in a whole ton of colors to add a little more variety to the color on this and a whole lot of bling. I have to frog out everything from the top of this hat and all of this out because I'm off by one stitch in the brim of the hat. And unfortunately, since this is circular, it'll show up. So that's going to be sometime in the next few weeks, probably on one of those snowy nights where I don't feel like stitching, but I could rip out and get a little bit of frustration out. So that is number 2 on the list. Number 3 is my Wentzler of the year. And I'm really hoping to make some progress on this year. I am not under any illusion I'm finishing it this year because I've got way too much to do on it. This is Egyptian Sampler. And I started this a long time ago. Let me get my page up. I actually went through my blog last night and tracked back through all of my entries to find my first mention of some of these so that I could get an accurate count. I started this in July 2005. This was a restart because the first time I did it on a piece of fabric and I went the wrong way on the fabric. Counting. It's what we should be doing. Yeah. So this is on a 28 count raw linen. I do not know the brand. It is not Zweigart. I think it may be Northern Cross, but I don't know. It's rough to the touch, but it's not super scratchy. It's got some body to it too, and it's not really that loose of a weave. It's got a really cool kind of antiqued pattern on bits of it, so it honestly, in person, it almost looks like it's on an old scroll, which is kind of what I was looking for. Stitched in the called for DMCs, all the blends, all the craziness, over 2, over 1, whatever Teresa decided to chart. As you can see, I don't have a ton done on this, but I do have that center bit done other than the back stitching. And I think when this comes up in the WIP Go rotation, I'm going to carry this out and work on border for a little while because that border is big and it is very continuous all the way around. So to get a little bit of border done would be nice. Next, I have Hugs and Kisses by Blue Ribbon Designs. This is on a 28 count silk weaver that I had in my stash from a long, long time ago. I've forgotten the color, but it's kind of a pretty light gray with just a little tinge of green in it. It is in DMC, not the charted colors. And I started this, well, I didn't start this actually. I was working on this with a fellow friend in my stitching group. She started this back in 2011, and the two of us were going to trade it off and on to finish it for a fellow friend, and I've lost track of everybody. It was my turn to work on this, and the friendship with my local friend fell apart, and I've fallen out of touch with everybody. So it kind of has gotten stuck with me. So for right now, I'm just going to keep working on it and finish it. And if I become connected with everybody again, awesome. Then maybe it'll become somebody's gift. Otherwise, it'll happily go on my wall. So yeah, this was started in 2011. It's a really pretty piece. I really do like blue ribbon designs, and they're not difficult to do. They're just kind of relaxing to do. So, and this is one of the kind of the smaller ones of all the collected, little motifs. There's that one. The next one was my New Year's start last January for 2000, and this is Early Americans. I am almost done blocking the 9-patch square to do all 9 parts of the series. I am doing this on 40 count Newcastle granite dust from Silkweaver. Also stitches very nicely and really fits the pattern because it kind of gives it that aged look. The originals are on a different gray, but this is what I happen to have in stash. I'm doing this with the charted threads, and I'm hoping to get at least 2 to 3 of those squares done this year. I will, by the way, be putting pictures of all of these up on my blog at some point this week. So you can really, if you really want to look at any of these in detail, there'll be a link down in the notes and you can take a look at any of them. I take pictures of my pieces all the time as I'm progressing through them. So at some point you'll be able to see like the entire progression of bit by bit by bit as they grow. And it's kind of cool to see. I like seeing it at least, and it convinces me that I'm actually making progress on things. Okay, my next piece is Quaker Compass, and this is one of the pieces that is up this month for WIP Go. I am doing this on 36 count sterling from Picture This Plus. I'm doing this in a combination of Threadworks, and a couple of solid DMCs will also get thrown in here that match the Threadworks. For like the little motifs that it really doesn't make sense to be doing all of the overdyed floss and the variegated floss. This I started in 2012, so this is a pre-max piece, but not by much. I didn't get a lot of it done because I started having issues in my pregnancy. So this kind of got put to the wayside, and then I just haven't gotten back to it really. It's a really pretty piece. I don't have the original with me. I should find that one of these days. It's down in the project bag on the floor somewhere. But yeah, it's a really neat piece. The original one is all in solids, but they were the same colors as I was doing my son's birth sampler in, and I wanted to mix it up a little bit for my wall. So I kind of went rebellious and went, I'm going to do this in overdyes. And it looks really cool, but then I didn't think to get all of the overdyes I might need. And anyone who's worked with Threadworks knows that the dye lots, of course, can change quite a bit. So that's why I now have to put some of that DMC in to make sure I can carry the Threadworks all the way through. I'm going to make sure that all the big stuff around the edges is Threadworks to border it. And then from there, I'll start playing around and making it work in the center and seeing how this is all going to go together. But it'll be a gorgeous piece when it's done. All right, the next piece is kind of a sad one, honestly. This is called Down the Danube, and this is by Jeanette Douglas. It has very little done on it, you can see here. None of this stitching is mine. This was one of my friends, my dear friend Sandy, who was part of my stitching group here in Rhode Island. and passed away unexpectedly about 3 years ago now. And she went with one of my other friends, Becky, on one of the Christmas cruises down the Danube several years ago, and obviously passed away before she could finish stitching this. When my stitching group was getting together and we were looking through Sandy's stash and people were taking things, you know, that were either sentimental to them or interested in them, and of course there were quite a few pieces that were not finished. I love Jeanette Douglas's stuff. The only other person who really was into Jeanette Douglas at the time was Becky, who had been on a cruise and had her own copy. So I said, no, I would love to finish this. So not a lot done, but I would love to get this done. And I don't think it's going to take that much time to do. It's not obviously a big piece. It's on, I believe, a 32 count linen, but I forgot to write down what it was. I'll put that up on the blog later. But yeah, so this one has a little bit of a sentimental feel to it, and it'll be that memento for me to look on the wall and remember Sandy and stitching with her. And it really was kind of a startling thing when she passed away. So I'm happy that I have something of hers that I'll be able to remember her by. The next piece on my list is the Quaker Mystery from last year's Linens and Threads. I am still working on January, and most of this has been because of the thread count. I am stitching this on 46 count Toasted Almond from Silkweaver. It's all in DMCs like everybody else. I picked my colors, and my idea was to go with a kind of a muted jewel tone idea. This is all of the colors I'm going to be using through the whole thing, and I am looking forward to seeing how this thing develops. So I will be working on this year in addition to the 2021 Talavera sampler that they are putting together that just had the first part released, just the frame, I believe. I haven't started that yet, and I'm waiting until a little bit later this month or probably, honestly, I might do it next month once I see what the first block is, so I can really firm up what colors are going where. I know what colors I'm using, I just don't know where I'm putting them yet. So that's that one. And I do have a couple of friends who are also stitching this, so hopefully that will give me a little more of a boost to move this one forward, because it is a beautiful sampler. And if you do like Quakers, that's one of the ones I would recommend. It's a free sampler. Go to their website. Grab it while you can, because they did start to remove the 2017 and the 2018 are now gone. They'll probably be back up for sale at some point, but they're gone for free downloads. So take advantage of them while you can. If you want to experiment with Quaker style samplers, or if you like these kind, go. Okay, so the next one on my list is Dear Rhine, and this was a free stitch along through a Facebook group in 2017, and I started this in February 2017. Mine is on, let's see, 32 count Poltergeist Lugana from Silkweaver, an old piece of Silkweaver. Nice thick fabric, honestly. I'm doing this in 4 shades of DMC, 2 of the kind of teal blues and 2 browns. And I'll be alternating lights and darks all the way across. This is kind of a neat sampler because everything is in these circles, and every other one is a geometric pattern, and every other one has animals on it. And there was 1 circle per week for an entire year. This piece of fabric will not fit all 52, and I'm okay with that. I've started it off with the ones that it did start with, but as I go along, I'm going to be a little selective with some of the circles that I do. Because I think when I measured it out, I will get like 45 out of the 52 on this. And like I said, I'm okay with not having a few of them because some of them I was kind of like, eh. It'll be my piece and it'll work. But yeah, this one I started in 2017. It's kind of the mindless one that I used to bring on my train commutes with me because it was easy to stitch there without having to worry too much. And if I really didn't have the space to spread out to look at a pattern, I could just work on circles because you just had to copy what you saw before. So when this comes up, I'm hoping that I'll get, you know, a couple more circles filled in maybe. Maybe get a couple more circles outlined so I can just start zooming across. Okay, the next one, you've probably seen on quite a few floss tubes in the last few months. This is the Coming to America, Women in the Mayflower by Brenda Gervais with Thy Needle. Mine is on 36 count linen. And I noticed last month, after I finally had a good light, again in my living room, that I started stitching it on the back side of the overdye. Yeah. So this is the side it's supposed to be on. This is the side it is not on. And I am just going to leave it on this side and call it a day and call it a little in-joke for myself and kick myself quietly when I look at it and pay attention to your fabric when you get it. Yeah, but I love the piece. And honestly, you know what? When I was looking at the modeling on mine, I'm kind of okay with it being on this side. It's just buying a piece of overdye fabric when you wind up doing it on the plain side is a little eye-rolling. Yeah. So this is where I am. I started this in September, obviously did not do it in the 66 days of coming over from England over to Massachusetts, but that's okay with me because I'm in no rush to get this done. I will enjoy the journey, and I'm hoping that maybe even for a little while this summer, I will be able to go and stitch over on the waterfront in Plymouth, maybe right by the replica Mayflower. Who knows? But yeah, that's being done in charted threads on charted fabric, just on the back side of the charted fabric. I always have something quirky with my stitching. That's the sad thing. The next one is an adopted piece. I adopted this from a fellow stitcher in 2017. It is currently my only Mirabilia going. I love Mirabilias. I don't really keep that many of them going at a time, oddly, for how much I like them. This is Midsummer Night's Fairy, and it is on, I know everything's wrinkled because it's been in project bags. This is on the charted fabric with the charted floss. It's 32 count Stony Point linen, so it's a little scratchy, but it looks stunning on this. Like I said, I adopted this in 2017, so I don't know when the original stitcher started it. I've put in a little bit of work on it, but I kind of got wrapped up in finishing Floral Bell Pull and Max's Birth Sampler and a couple other pieces, and haven't put as much work on this as I'd hoped, because anyone who stitched Mirabilias knows that they can go surprisingly fast until you get really into all the beading. So I'm really hoping that I can move this up and get the face on it this year. I don't think a finish is in order because there's still quite a bit to do, but here's hoping that I can make some nice progress on it this year during WIP Go. All right, the next one is Book of Ink Circles by Ink Circles. This was a freebie on Ink Circles' website, and I don't know if it's still there or not. I started this in 2012, and a couple years ago had to do some massive amounts of repair work on it because I completely miscounted a couple of these squares. The original one came out where you did the border first, and then bits of it were released, and you would fill in a square or two per the release. I was hoping originally to do this in the same manner that they did, as it's not really a mystery, obviously, since the whole piece is out, but I was going to work on it where I did the whole, you know, all of the outline and then start filling it in just like originally intended. We'll see if I can stick to that. I may just want to start filling this in so I know that all my counts are correct. This is on 28 count Silkweaver Thunderstorm. This is a very old piece of Silkweaver. I've probably had it in my stash since 2005. Really nice thick piece of, it's casual linen. So it's a really nice drapey linen. I'm doing this, all of this is in, it's a gentle art. This is Cinders. And then I have been waffling on my color scheme to put in the center of it. I think I found it, but I just need to look at it again before I really start filling out these squares. I didn't like the original colors. I just thought it was a little too bright for my personal taste. I understand that it's very Celtic in the way it looked. I kind of was looking towards more cool colors like greens and blues, but I really need to take a good look under bright light to see if it works on this fabric. But this is how this looks so far. So I have no set goals for that for this year, just to make progress on it. And hopefully eventually it'll finish. Okay, the next one is the Free Space Square, number 13, for my WIP Go board. And for that, I had chosen to do any new start for 2021. And so my New Year's Day start of this year has become my number 13 square. This is from Sea to Shining Sea from Little House. It's on 32 count Lugana from Silkweaver. This was what now are called solos, but back then were called limited editions. It's a piece of linen, of Lugana, that I had in my stash from about 2006. So this is not a color you're going to find, but it's kind of a peachy brownie piece. Really pretty. Stuff's popping off of it, which was my goal. I'm doing this with the silk threads that were included in the kit. This was a multi-part series that runs across and literally is Sea to Shining Sea in the United States. And this is only what I did in a day and a half. So it's stitching up nicely and very quickly so far. Hopefully I can make great progress on this one. Little House pieces are relaxing. I don't know why, they're just relaxing. The other one I have going is going slower only because of the count and because of the color of the fabric. But this one I've just kind of been speeding along so far because it's really just been repetitive border stuff. So I look forward to showing you more progress on this as I make it this year. And it's obviously still in the Q-snap because I only started it a couple days ago. Okay, the next piece you've seen before. And that is, I have these out of order. Oh no, you haven't seen this one before. That's right. I don't think I've shown this year so far. This is my copy of Deep Blue Sea from Chatelaine. And it is on a gigantic piece of fabric because I was not going to dare let myself run out of fabric on the edges with how big these pieces are. So I've got like an obscene amount of fabric on the sides of this thing. I will cut it down once I get to the edges of the project itself to make sure I have enough. And then I will have a glorious amount of dark blue fabric to do smalls on. So let me make sure, oh, no, and I have it upside down because my arrow is pointing the wrong way. Okay, so I have parts 1, 2, and 3 done on this. Isn't that gorgeous? So this was a mystery in 2012. This is my New Year's start. in 2012. So this is really the last big pre-max piece. And this is on 28 count Phantom from Picture This Plus. I had to buy a whole yard to fit this. The flosses are all converted. The original one was charted in Gloriana, and I was desperate to try to cut my costs down so I could afford the blue fabric. And I redid just about everything into Vicki Clayton silks. And when Vicki Clayton stopped dyeing for a while, I freaked out and I put this aside because I was terrified I would run out. Well, thankfully now she's dyeing again. So I'm hopeful that I can really take a good look and see if there's any colors that I'm going to get a little dicey on and then go make the request to get, you know, more of the silks, especially the things that start creating the big wings. I might be okay, but it just freaked me out because all of a sudden I'm like, oh God, what do? I didn't think about this, that she might stop dying, because it seemed like she would be going on forever. So this is the only chatelaine I have at all right now. I cannot justify doing more than one of these at a time. But this one will be a really, really pretty one with seahorses and fish and whatnot. And of course you will see a ton of the fabric, as is the point, because it's the sea. And it is literally on like a sheet because I'm not letting myself run out of fabric on this one. Oh no. So there is Deep Blue Sea. Okay. Oh yeah, I flipped this whole pile over somehow. All right. The next one you have seen before. This is I Love New England, which is a out of print sampler from a little shop that used to be in Plymouth called the Sampler Needlework. My copy of it is on 32 count antique white from Zweigart. It's a long sampler. This is probably about a quarter of it. It's the first top 2 pages of it. I have it in the charted DMC. It only takes about 4 or 5 colors at DMC. It's really not all that bad. Took me a little while to get going on it, but once I got my rhythm, it's now going a lot better. And as you can see, I basically have finished these top pages. I think I'm just missing a little red heart that goes here to fill in this blank space. So I started this in 2012 as part of one of my crazy January starts that year, because although I wasn't pregnant yet at the time, I guess somehow I knew that I was going to be later that year, so I had to start everything, so I have everything backed up. I am hoping to get at least 2 more pages of that done this year and move it down to have more than half of it done. That's my goal. The next one is the final piece for this month. And this is called Celestial Medley. It's from a shaker box top. And this is on 28 count even weave. I adopted this from the same stitcher who I adopted the Mirabilia from in 2017. So I do not know when she started it. It is entirely in DMC. And not a big piece, as you can tell. It's just going to be a circle. So my goal on this is 1,000 stitches on this month. So I should move this forward nicely with my goal. And I look forward to showing you a little bit more of it. I don't know what I'll put it on at the end, because the shaker box that it calls for is wicked expensive. So it may go on like one of those cookie tins, if I can find one that fits it nicely. I definitely want it to be a topper to something, because it's what it's meant to be. The next one is a Dragon Dreams. It's another one that I adopted, but this is one that is much, much older. I adopted this back, I want to say about 2006, 2007. I do not know what fabric it's on. It feels like it is a Zweigart base. It's nice and thick. It feels like a casual linen, but I do not know what color it is. It's not necessarily a color I would pick for a snowball fight, but the colors bounce off of it nicely, and Dragon Dreams are fun little stitches to do, nice and easy. And of course, it's a snow dragon. How can you not love a snow dragon? So that's that one. Fun little holiday one to do. The next one is my other Jeanette Douglas. And I took a class with her at Celebration of Needlework back in 2018 in Nashua, New Hampshire. This is all I got done during the actual class. So obviously not that much. Hey, I've got an acorn top. But this is one of, if you've seen some of her designs recently, she's got a bunch that go in little cubby boxes, and they have like a bunch of different squares, and she has one that's mermaid and one that's Christmas, and there's this one, and then there's one that has like a hot air balloon, and they're really, really cute. And you know, it's a bunch of little smalls that all fit in these trays, and then you can buy a box that each of them slides into, and you can have one presenting on the top of the box, and then the others slide in to store them, and every once in a while, you know, you can switch them up and put a new one up on top. Neat little presentation idea. I have the box, and I have the storage box, so with a number of boxes. So I need to do a bunch of these so I can fill all of my boxes. This is the first one of the batch. This is on 32 count. I forgot to write down what it is, but I know it's Picture This Plus. I want to say it's Legacy, maybe. It's all in a wonderful array of silks and all the fun stuff that Jeanette always uses. And so my friend Becky has already finished hers. She said it was a quick stitch, so I'm looking forward to getting mine done. And I'm hoping to get at least the stitching on this done this year. I might not get the finishing done to get it into the box, but I would like to get this stitched by the end of the year. But like I said, I'm not making any solid goals because who knows what actually is going to be going on this year. Okay, so the next one I have is the Big Blue Monster. This is Smoky Mountain Cats. This is an old Pegasus Designs kit. It's on 14 count Aida, and I'm using the kitted floss, which is a little cranky and yucky to use, but it works beautifully, and I don't feel like switching it out now. This is an old WIP of mine. This is probably from about 2003. It's gone around the world on UFO round robins. It's been part of challenges. I recently put about 10 lines of just straight blue back and forth during a one strand a night challenge, and I'm going to continue doing that this year, but it's going to rest for a little while because I just need a break from the blue, because other than those eyes, it's all blue. There's a bunch more down here to get done. It's probably about, 3/4 of the way done, maybe. So it's a lot of blue. And you just get tired of that after a while. So I can do a little bit on it and then I need to take a break. But eventually it'll get done and it'll look stunning when it is. All right, so I have 2 more pieces for the WIP Go board that I can show you right now. The first is another Dragon Dreams, and this is the Elemental Dragon series. I have finished 2 of them, and I've got those 2 here so you can see them. This is Fire. I finished this in 2005. And then the next one, I didn't finish. until 2010. This is Spirit. And the third one I'm stitching on, because I'd honestly forgotten that I had these in my stash and they were kind of in the back of the WIP pile, is Earth, which doesn't have a whole ton done, but they're not big. They're only like 60 or 70 stitches high by like 30 or 40 wide. So they're Rhode Island size stitches. Yeah. So I've got this one, and then of course I've got the other two elements. I've got water to do, and I've got air to do. And I have them all kitted, ready to go. I've got the fabric for them. These are all very old Silk Weaver cuts. This is what they actually used to do for their fabric of the month. These are 9 by 13 pieces of fabric, and you used to get like 4 of them in the fabric of the month. It was awesome. Great for these little pieces. And I just selected 5 different colors, not realizing at the time, of course, that there's a difference between casual linen and even weave and whatnot. So they don't match very well. But they're cute, and they'll all get framed individually, and then I'll put them on the wall. So I'm hoping maybe I can get this one done this year, and we'll see what else we get done. They're quick stitches. The final one I have that is a WIP for my WIP Go board. There's not much done on this, unfortunately, because this has been the piece that decides that it always just wants to hide itself. First I lose all the floss, then I lose the pattern, then I lost the fabric, and as I find one, something else decides to go wandering. So I'm keeping these all now not in a safe place, but right where I can see them, because a safe place is called I keep losing it and hiding it from myself. This is the beginning of Nantucket's sampler from Madero's Needlework. I started this in 2012 as part of that Whirling Dervish of Starts that year. It's just a little sampler, very simple little cute band sampler. I'm stitching this on 36 count legacy linen from Picture This Plus, and using Sullivan's threads because at the time, you know, they were being introduced and I wanted to try them, and I like them. I don't like them better or worse than DMC. They're just different. So this one is the only piece I have going in Sullivan's right now. I don't know if I would buy Sullivan's again. It's kind of hard for me to find it, actually. It's not sold anywhere really close to me, so it's not a convenient thing like DMC is. But I suppose if I was buying it for like the prices that they have to over in the UK or over in Australia versus the price of Sullivan's, it definitely becomes much more appealing, because I think it's about half the price. But for me, the running around to find it makes it not really worth the effort. So yeah, that's, let me lift that up. This is the WIP Go pile that I just showed you. My goal on each of these projects in the months that they are called is 1,000 stitches during that month for each piece. So this month, of course, there's 3 pieces since they called the free spot. So I have 3 pieces to throw 1,000 stitches in. And then the rest of the year, there'll be 2 pieces called every month. So 1,000 stitches isn't really that bad. I can sit down and comfortably do 200 in, you know, a weekend evening. So doing about a week's worth, I should clear my 1,000 very, very easily. Really depends on what's going on, but I've got a couple of long weekends this month. Between like, I mean, I cleared that much on the first piece already. I think I'm up to 350 on that one. I've got a couple long weekends coming up because of Martin Luther King Day, and I'm taking time off for my birthday, and yeah, so I'm gonna have some nice stitching days, so I'll clear through those 3. I have no other goals. I'm not like some of the stitchers have, I'm gonna finish this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. I'm not doing that this month, or this year. 1,000 stitches, visible progress. That's my only goal on each of these, because I want to be able to stitch on other stuff too throughout the year. So I'm going to show you four more pieces that I have going, which are not part of that WIP Go board, but are my other active WIPs that I have going, and one I forgot to take out of the bag. One is for a group called Semi-Sane Stitchers, and they are doing a challenge called Alpha My Bet, where every 2 weeks, you pick one piece that has alphabets on it, and every 2 weeks, letter of the alphabet comes up, and you stitch that alphabet letter. And in theory, if you're able to keep up with it all year, then by the end of it, you're going to have your entire alphabet done. I decided to grab a band sampler on banding that I started in 2018 for my new start. And this is called Alpha Bits by Wild Heart Designs. I'm doing this on a 27 count banding from Zweigart. And the floss is called Cherry Cola from Nina's Threads. She is out of Hungary, I believe. Really, really pretty color, isn't it? And this sampler is the alphabet letter and then a specialty stitch line, and every single one of the specialty stitch lines are different. So I'm a little ahead of the game because this is where I left off the last time I stitched on this on letter D. So I am not going to be starting to stitch on this until February when the D comes up, but that's what I'm doing for the yearly challenge, and hopefully I will have this done at the end of the year. I've got plenty of fabric, as you can see. And yes, I have plenty of floss for that one. I did prepare. So that is alphabets. Let me put that there. The next one is my oldest WIP. And it is my oldest WIP because for about 20 years, I lost the pattern. I started this in high school. Now we're dating things. The copy of the pattern that I have is dated 92. I don't know if that's a reprint of the original. I could have sworn I started this earlier than that, but maybe I didn't. I didn't keep track of my records back then. This is from an old True Colors chart called Musical Harmony. And the piece that you're looking at here is the one that I'm doing. So if this was in 1992, I would have been 17 when I started this. So this would have been after I started the castle. So this would be the 4th or 5th piece I ever started to stitch. It got lost in a bag at my mom's for years. The pattern then was probably back at my dad's house in Montana and got thrown out years ago. But the fabric and what I had done on it, I found recently. And this is what I have done so far. So I probably haven't stitched on this probably since college. I know that at one point I had a plan to make this into a pillow for my big sister in my sorority because I was in the band sorority. And that obviously didn't happen. So this will be getting finished for myself. My stitching's not actually that bad on it. It looks like my stitches are all going the same way. My tension's a little wacky, but you know, considering that this was started in the early 90s and is now 30 years old, I think it looks pretty good. So there's not a whole ton left to do on this. I should be able to finish this year. That would be a fun finish to have the oldest WIP ever in my stash. That's on 14 count Ada because at the time, that's all I knew how to stitch on. And stitched on DMC. I do have quite a bit of old DMC in my stash that still has the like early 90s, late 80s labels on it. So I will not have a problem matching the dye lot. Thankfully, I'm at a spot where if I did have to switch dye lots, I'm not in the middle of any motif. I'm starting on new things. So if I do have to switch the dye lot a little bit, I'm going to be okay. The next piece was one of my New Year's starts 2 years ago when I started, oh, what did I start to? And They Sinned. This was my easy start that year. And it hasn't really gotten a lot of attention since then. This is Kids Leave Handprints by My Big Toe Designs. I'm doing this on a 28 count linen, an antique white. It was just kind of a remnant cut that I had. I'm doing this in a combination of Mo's floss. She's out of Florida and does some really funky colors. Some of the more recent ones have muted down a little bit, but her original ones were super, 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 super bright. Cool colors, but it's like, crap, what am I going to use this for? Well, a thing about kids and how adorable they are and how they leave handprints on your soul seems like the perfect thing to put random colors on. So that would be that one. Will be a fast stitch when I actually get the, desire to burn through it. And the final piece I have to show you is Pandemic. And mine is here. I don't have a whole ton done. I am doing mine on 36 count white, antique white, linen. I am using sulky threads, and my color scheme is the idea of a sunset. So I've got some blacks in there, a couple of different purples. There'll be some oranges in there. Really, really pretty together. I love using the sulky threads because you only have to use one thread on, and it easily covers on 36 where, sometimes you have those tension issues. Sulky is available in multiple weights. The hand sewing weight is the 12 weight thread, and it's not quite the same width as 2 DMC. It's more like 1.5. So if you stitch comfortably with 2 threads on 36, you're going to be fine with sulky. If you find that you're way too thick, you might want to go down to the 30 weight and use 2 threads there. The 30 weight is a machine weight, but you could easily use it to sew with, to stitch with. You might just have to double up the other weights. So that is my huge current WIP stash list, and this is my longest video as I'm looking at the time going, wow, I've talked for almost an hour. Holy crap. Yeah. So I'm going to stop there for now, but what I'm going to do is next time I'm going to show you the Wentzler pile, because there's about a dozen of those, I kid you not. And then I think at some point I will do a presentation of things that I have finished that are not framed, because all of us have that stash of things that are done that we haven't finally finished yet. And I've got a pile, and it would be a really fun thing to go through them and show you all the neat stuff that I have done, because there's quite a variety of things over the years that I've finished. So I'm going to leave you for now, because it is now almost 10 o'clock at night, or past 10 o'clock at night. I hope you have a lovely week, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow night with chapter 2 of the WIP Parade. Take care all. Bye.